Joining me in the studio is Peter Pham. He's the Vice President and Director of the Atlantic Council's Africa Center. Peter, welcome to the program.
Good to see you again.
Well, let me ask you a tough question. What does Uhuru Kenyatta need to do? What does he have to do to unite this country? I
think he has to do several things. First, as he already hinted in his inaugural address, he has to show himself, not only by his words, but his actions, to be the president of all Kenyans. He has, there's a dispute, there's a shadow cast over the legitimacy of his electoral victory because of the boycott.
You still believe there's
a shadow. Okay. One could argue, and I would make the argument, he actually, even with the boycott, won more votes in the second round than Raila Odinga won in the first round. So quite clearly, he's the legal president of the country. But there's going to be a segment of the population that is going to feel left out. He's going to have to, as he himself acknowledged, bring them in. How does he do that? I think several things are important. Economic growth. He has to deliver economic growth. The country suffered a hit this year because of the electoral uncertainty, the political uncertainty. He's going to have to work on building the economy. And Kenya's had tremendous economic growth these last few years, but it's been an unequal growth. Not everyone is shared in the same way. Elites, the urban population have done pretty well. Other parts of the country less well. So an inclusive growth. Secondly, he needs to do something about implementing Kenya's constitution, which devolves power to the 47 counties, where Kenya has dozens of ethnic groups. And if it's a winner-take-all at the top, it doesn't really work. But if it devolves it to local governments where people can feel they have a better say, a stake in what's going on, I think that would diffuse a lot of the tension, too.
And that was my next question to you. How much is Raila Odinga's refusal to accept the results and the bitter rivalry between these two men, how much of it does have to do with the ethnic tensions and the ethnic rivalry?
Well, if we're honest, it's a political rivalry first and foremost between not only two men, but really two families since the foundation of Kenya as an independent country. But that said, the added to the pressure, Raila Odinga is not a young man. He's 75. This was his last shot at the presidency, so he's not going to go out quietly. But I think one has to acknowledge there is an ethnic dimension to voting in Kenya. And if you look at President Uhuru Kenyatta, and you look at his Vice President, William Ruto, and you add their ethnic groups together, they're 50% larger than Raila Odinga and his running mates. So even on the ethnic basis alone, as a proxy, it's impossible to have imagined a different outcome.
So what is going to happen with Odinga? He says he plans to, get himself sworn in at some point. At what point does the reality on the ground sink in and him realize, I need to move on. This is over. I have lost.
Well, it'd be a case, sad as it may be, and it's sad to see a great man, a man who suffered for democracy in his country, go down like this. It may be that history marches on without Raila Odinga. But I think where Uhuru Kenyatta would be prudent would be to reach out to people who may have supported Raila Odinga, who are younger, who can live to fight another day, and who aren't willing to go down, with what clearly is a sinking ship.
And finally, how concerned are you about police brutality, violence, instability, because there are Raila Odinga followers who are not going to go quietly either?
No, and that's sad. It's sad because it threatens the common future of all Kenyans. But it's also preoccupying because Kenya is a critical country in East Africa, not only for the economic growth of the region, but as a counterterrorism partner against elements like Al-Shabaab and increasingly ISIS coming out of Somalia. So the last thing the international community needs is a Kenya that's not stable.
Peter Pham, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
As always.